Welcome to the School of Moxie Podcast, brought to you by Sensible Woo. This is the podcast where we break the mold around business conversations. We make it fun around here by using television, movies, and entertainment as a jumping off point for conversations about how we navigate the world as individuals. I'm your host, Mary Williams, and I've been an online creator since 2010. I've seen a lot of trends come and go over the years, but the one thing that has persisted is a struggle among entrepreneurs to connect more authentically with their audiences. As a business systems, process, and operations coach, I've seen how much my clients and subscribers have benefited from learning how to incorporate their fun sides. So we are going to demonstrate this for you here on this podcast. I've always been inspired by my early career in the media world with big entertainment and media studios. And if there's one thing I've always carried with me since then, it's that we connect as people, human to human, through water cooler chat. Our favorite shows not only help us connect with other people on a deeper level, but they also reflect back to us our biggest values and strengths. When you can learn how to harness the power of analogous thinking, you're going to elevate your ability to connect with other people faster and more easily. If you've been bored to tears by the usual business podcasts with the same boring backstories and the same repetitive sales pitches, you're about to go on a wild ride with my guests. Our first season of this podcast is centered on the first season of the HBO original series, The Last of Us, based on the video game of the same name. Consider this your official spoiler alert. On this podcast, my guests are going to jump right into the conversation, and we are going to spill all the tea on the story and plot. So if you enjoy being surprised, I encourage you to watch the episode first before listening to our discussion. What does a television show like The Last of Us have anything to do with business, you ask? An awful lot. You are a multifaceted individual with a lot of life experience, and a story with a complex mix of characters like The Last of Us can help you identify traits that will help you become a better entrepreneur. Storytelling in fiction is as old as time. We gather around campfires and in darkened movie theaters because the fiction reflects our lives back to us. Sometimes we feel seen and heard because these characters move through the world as we do. Sometimes we aspire to a vision because a character goes through a story that shows us what is possible in our own lives. And sometimes we see characters do things that we disagree with, which tells us our boundaries and our limits in life. Fiction is the vehicle that gives us words to articulate our value systems and tells people who we are. I find a lot of my clients struggle to find words for a lot of their problems until they start thinking about how to use analogies. As humans, we are a languaged species, which means we find context and meaning in our lives through the ability to put our feelings into words. This podcast is going to help you normalize this process and see how it's done in real time as my guests talk through their own experiences in relation to the episode they've been assigned for this show. My guests were also tasked with some reading homework. We read the book Bittersweet by Susan Cain because Susan Cain has articulated into words what the fandom around The Last of Us experiences, which is strong bonds through the bittersweet qualities of life. I found it particularly special for this season's episodes because it is through the complex emotions of bittersweetness that we connect with our family, our friends, our loved ones, and especially with our clients in business. You can follow along with us this season by reading the book Bittersweet and watching the first season of The Last of Us on HBO or their streaming service equivalent, now named Max, formerly HBO Max. The links to these pieces of content are in the show notes for every episode this season. Trying something that might be outside your normal comfort zone of television programming or any media consumption for that matter is a healthy thing, especially when it's guided with a group that's doing the same activity. Whether or not you feel like you've been struggling to connect with other people, being connected to the zeitgeist in some way is a critical component to feeling like you belong in this world, and you do. Something that's really important about this podcast is that I want to change the way we talk about business through this medium. None of us are connecting the way we need to through the same boring introductions, the same boring backstories. I'll be the first to tell you, no one needs to sit through 30 minutes of my resume, which I have done, and I'm so sorry. And none of us need the same poorly delivered calls to action for yet another launch that we didn't ask to hear about. You will never hear about a freebie or a launch from one of my guests on the show. The goal here is for them to model for you and to practice for themselves how to be 100% human, have a truly authentic conversation. It's inevitable that we'll talk about our businesses and our clients, but you're going to notice how different it is to really get to know someone as the focal point rather than just hearing them practice their sentence about who they serve and what they offer. My guests' information will always be in the show notes, and you will have total freedom of choice to go check them out. sign up to email lists, follow them on social media, or whatever it is they provide as ways to connect with you. You're officially in the driver's seat. I can't wait to go on this ride with you.